It is 9:03, and we do have a quorum. We're still missing Mr. Wardlaw and Ms. Farmer, but we do have a quorum. So let's get this show on the road. Y'all ready? You ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's get it going. And y'all are going to have to forgive my voice this morning because this is allergy season and I got it bad. Let's start off with Brother Tommy King, if you would come forward. He's a minister at the Johnson Street Church of Christ, and let him open us up with an invocation.
Let's bow in prayer. Father, we come to you first of all with hearts full of gratitude. You take such good care of us. So many blessings that we see in this community, and so many things we know you do for us that we never notice, but as a loving Father, you take care of us. Father, we do come seeking your blessing of rain. I know you tell us not to worry, but we do get worried about difficult things like this, and we pray that you will send blessings from your heavens. Father, we know that you judge us by how we work together and how we take care of one another. And we pray, Father, that we please you in that. And especially today, as this group of our leaders talk about this community and how we can work together and how we can take care of those in need, we pray your blessing of your spirit of wisdom upon them. We pray this through Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Tom. And now, to help us with their pledge this morning, Miss Delaney Elzin. Elzin, did I get anywhere near close to that? She is a 9th grader, a 9 years old, and a 6th grader at TLC Academy. So, you ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And the Texas flag?
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state,
under God, one and indivisible.
Good job.
Thank you so much. And now we have a proclamation, School Board Recognition Month, and it looks like we've got a very dignified group of individuals here with us this morning. Let me read this. I'll have y'all come forward and make your speeches. Proclamation. The mission of public schools is to meet the diverse educational needs of all children and to empower them to become competent, productive contributors to a democratic society and an ever-changing world. And local school board members are committed to children and believe all children can be successful lifelong learners, and that the best education is tailored to the individual needs of each child. And local school board members work closely with parents, educational professionals, and other community members to create the educational vision we want for our students. And local school board members are responsible for ensuring the structure that provides a solid foundation for our school system. And local school board members are strong advocates for public education and are responsible for communicating the needs of the school district to the public and the public's expectations to the district. Now, therefore, I, Dwayne Morrison, the mayor of the city of San Angelo, on behalf of the city council, do hereby declare our appreciation to the members of the San Angelo Independent School Board and proclaim the month of January 2014 as School Board Recognition Month in San Angelo, and urge all citizens to join us in recognizing the dedication and hard work of local school board members and in working with them to mold an education system that meets the needs of both today's and tomorrow's children. Y'all come up. Come up and introduce yourself. And you want to start?
Fine.
Good morning, man. It's
Thank
good
you.
to see y'all.
I'm Max Parker. I'm the vice president of the board. This is Bill Dindal and Jamie Mizell Flint, Art Hernandez. They're also members of the board. Laney Lehman, our president's out of town, wasn't able to be here today. Gerard Gallegos and Tim Archer are also members of a board that are not able to be here. I want to thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council members, for for recognizing us, for remembering us and honoring us. We've had a great relationship the past few years with the City Council, working together to try to make things better for our students, make things better for our community. We appreciate Johnny and Don, who've been on our school board before, and we know that all of you care about the students, and they're making our schools as best they can be just as much as we do. I want to also introduce some of our administrators that are here. Dr. Carol Ann Bonds, our superintendent, is here. Dr. Carl Detloff, our assistant superintendent, here. Steve Gill, Stephanie Free, also in our administration office, as well as Dr. Jeff Bright. I didn't see him sitting there. And Jamie and Martha are also here. So we've got great staff, great administration that helps us just like they help you. Your staff helps you, Mr. Mayor. But thank you again for this honor.
Appreciate it very much.
Mayor,
Yes.
I just wanted to say, after being a school board trustee for 5 terms, these people are truly community volunteers. They have to go through an election to be there, but to me, and I think Johnny will second this, that there's no more volunteers than the people that give their time for our children, and these are truly people that do that every day.
Thank you, Don. And we're proud of each and every one of you. Thank you for being here today, and we was glad to be able to make a proclamation. Now we've got another one. This is for a group from our city, and this is, well, there's about 4 chapters here that I'm about to read to kind of set this up, and then Mr. Hagan will then make some presentations. The OSHA Academy is an online training curriculum that is endorsed by the National Safety Management Society and recognized by the Institute for Safety and Health Management. The following safety committee members have completed the 132-hour occupation safety health professional program, which consists of a manager program, specialist program, trainer program, supervisor program, committee leader program, and committee member program. James Alley, Lake Operations; Charles Hagan, Risk Management; Richard Lancaster, Water Reclamation. The following safety committee members have completed the OSHA Academy 36-hour committee leader program, which consists of 7 courses: safety management, safety committee operations, accident investigation, analysis and control, committee meetings, ergonomics, and emergency action plans. This would be Anthony Chambliss, water distribution; Diane Faulkner, recreation; Mike Hitchcock, park operations; Robert Karch, traffic operations; Jose Mata, stormwater; Michael Neely, and water distribution. Charles Hagan, safety coordinator and risk management, has met the credentialing requirements set by the Institute for Safety and Health Management and has been awarded the Associate Safety and Health Manager certification. The Safety Committee has established a goal of reducing accidents and injuries from the previous year by 25%. In 2013, city departments and divisions have placed an effort to decrease accidents and injuries through monthly safety meetings and weekly tailgate training. The departments and divisions with the highest risk of accidents or injuries due to the physical demands of the work required are issued letters or certificates based upon safety improvements achieved. Letters are rewarded to departments or divisions that reduced either auto accidents or workman's compensation injuries by 25% from the previous years. Letters are awarded to the following departments, divisions for 2013: Airport, Louis Escobar; Facilities Maintenance, Ron Lewis; Fairmont Cemetery, Oscar Mata; Fire Prevention, Ross Coleman; GIS, Mike Smith; Municipal Court, Alan Gilbert; Park Operations, Roger Havlick; Planning, A.J. Favre; Stormwater, Art Gonzalez; Street and Bridge, Gary Ayers; Twin Buttes, Gary Hasty; Utility Maintenance, Greg Gilbert; Vehicle Maintenance, Ryan Kramer; and Water Conservation, Tony Fox. Certificates are awarded to departments or divisions that reduce both the auto accidents and workers' compensation injuries by 25% from the previous year. Certificates are awarded to the following departments, divisions for 2013: Animal Services, Julia Verna; Civic Events, Angelica Pina; Code Compliance, James Flores; Ford Concho, Bob Bluthart; Police, Tim Vasquez; Recreation, Mary Ann Vasquez; Traffic Operations, Alonzo Carrasco; Water Distribution Collection, Simon Quayler; and Water Production, Charles McGuire. And now I turn it over to Mr. Hagan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We'll just go ahead and start with the presentations. I'll call you up individually. Rick Lancaster. These are the OSHA Academy graduates for
I
the
guess we're gonna take a
132
picture
hours.
up here, are we? We're gonna take a picture, Brian, when we get through. If y'all would just line up around the table here. Thank you, buddy.
And then, of course, myself. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. A.
Okay. The other safety committee members that completed the 36 hours, we have Anthony Chambliss, Water Distribution. Robert Karch, Traffic Operations. Did he make it here today?
Thank you, buddy.
Jose Mata. From the Stormwater Department. Mike Neely,
Congratulations,
Water
sir.
Distribution.
Brother Neely, congratulations, sir.
And that'd be the OSHA Academy group if you want to do that photo, or you want to do them all together.
I just keep working.
Okay. For the letters, airport, Louis Alguizabal, sorry. Facility maintenance, Ron Lewis.
So, Lou, congratulations, buddy.
Fire prevention, Ross Coleman.
Ron Lewis, congratulations, buddy.
Graphic information systems, Mike Smith.
Ross, congratulations, partner.
Parks division, Mike Kickstock.
Congratulations, partner.
Planning division, AJ
Come
Faber.
on, buddy. Congratulations, Cisco.
Stormwater division, Arthur Gonzalez. Street and Bridge, Narciso Garcia.
Art, congratulations, partner. Congratulations, amigo.
Twin Buttes, Greg Hasty. Utility maintenance, Greg Gilbert. Nathan Tim. Vehicle maintenance, Ryan Kramer. And water conservation, Tony. Yeah.
Congratulations, partner. Got those?
Okay. Certificates, those that reduce both auto and workers' comp. Animal service, Julie Verana. Angelica Pena, civic events.
Congratulations, Julie.
Code compliance, James Flores. Fort Concho, Bob Bluehart.
Brother Chloe, congratulations, sir.
Recreation, Marianne Vesquez.
Come on up, Blue Bart. Congratulations, buddy. Marianne, congratulations.
Water distribution, Simon Suelo. And water production, Charles McGuire. Charles Snyder.
Congratulations, partner. Hope they get the picture taken.
That's it, sir.
We through?
That's it.
How we gonna do this? Yeah.
Where are you going, Bob? One, two, three.
This is the part of our meeting where we take public comment. Let me read the legalities here, and then we will allow you, anyone that wants to speak, anyone that wants to address the council, or anything that's not on the agenda, you'll have your time to come up. The council takes public comment on all items in the regular agenda. Public input on a regular agenda item will be taken at its appropriate discussion. Public input on an item not on the agenda or consent agenda may be identified and requested for consideration by the council at this time. The council may request an item to be placed on a future agenda or for a consent agenda item to be moved to the regular agenda for public comment. On public hearing items, public input will be received on each item immediately following the council discussion and prior to any action on the item. Each member of the public should make their remarks from the podium by stating their name. Remarks by each citizen will be limited to 3 to 5 minutes unless waived by a council member for all speaking on that matter. No individual will be allowed to speak more than once on any one subject until every citizen wishing to comment has done so. This is your opportunity. If you have something you want to address the council, if you have an issue, if you want to talk to us, or if you just want to come up and be seen, this is your time to come forward. So make a line. The line is short. Well, there seems to be no public comment.
Here, man.
Yes, sir.
Mayor, I'd like to take this opportunity at this point to introduce Roland Pena. Roland, if you'll stand up. Roland Pena is our new Economic Development Director. We welcome him to our community. We're very pleased to have him here. We're looking forward to some great work from him. And again, we want to welcome you and your family.
Thank you. And we do welcome you, Roland. And we interviewed, and Roland is the right man for the job. So welcome, San Angelo. Anyone else on the council wish to say anything? Do you have any comments that wish to be said?
Mayor,
Johnny?
since we have the chief here, and the name of transparency, I did have another taxpayer call me, and they're still concerned about the loud noises, the boombox noises from the cars. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I told them I would. So there it is, Chief. You've heard it, and I think there's still some noise issues out there. So anyway, thank you.
Don?
I'm good.
Rodney? Marty?
Good.
And
Well,
one thing I'd like to say.
Yes, sir.
It was brought to my attention this morning that somebody put in the newspaper or one of the online things that I said that the police department needed to buy all their own weapons. I don't know where that came from. Never heard it before. I would never, ever say that. Never. I just want to make that really clear.
Well, I do have one public health announcement that I want to make, and it concerns me personally. This isn't costing you a dime, so take it for what it's worth. After a man or a woman reaches 60 years old, the propensity to get shingles increases by about 10%. It's 10 times. You don't want these things. Now, young pups can get them too, but us old dogs are the one that really are hit with these things the hardest. So I am going to encourage you, if you have not got a shot to prevent shingles, please do so. You don't want them. And as my old grandpa used to say, once you get them, they ain't nothing you can do to get rid of the pain, and I am an attest to that. So it didn't cost you anything. There it is. That's a public health announcement. But if you've not got your shingles shot, I would strongly recommend it, especially if you're one of the old dogs like me. So there's that. All right, now let's go on to the consent agenda. Is there anything from the council? Does anyone want to pull anything from consent?
Mayor, I'd like to pull item number 6, please.
Item number 6, I had that one marked as well. Okay, Don. Anything else? Marty, Fleming, Johnny?
No, sir.
Y'all all right with it? Somebody want to make a motion to accept the
I'll move
consent
that we
agenda?
approve the consent agenda minus item number 6,
Second.
as is.
Okay, I do have an emotion and I do have a second. Do I have any other comment from the public on the consent agenda? No comment. Then I've got a motion to that we accept it as presented with the exception of number 6. I will call for the vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay? The consent agenda does pass. This is all of the items. Number 1,
Mayor, I assume
number 1 through 16 with the exception of 6.
we need to be careful if we get up and leave the dais to get a glass of water or a bathroom break or something, because the quorum.
Yeah, if anybody has to leave, we're going to have to shut the meeting down until you get back because we're dealing with the minimum quorum today.
Mayor.
All right.
May I make a correction? It's number 9, not number 16
What'd I say?
1 through 16. You want to do that?
on the consent.
Well, that will be the consent agenda. That's number 1 through number 9, with the exception of number 6. All right. Everybody all right with the motion on that? Okay.
Shingles does that.
Shingles does that to you. All right, Don, you want to talk about number 6, sir?
Well, after reading it, I didn't really understand everything that was going on. From what I got out of it, we were going to install some equipment, and I don't know whose item this is.
Ryan?
Ryan Ward.
Okay, Ryan. And I wanted a little bit of clarification as far as what's being installed, how's all this going to work?
Good morning, Council. What it is, we actually have a Trimble base unit that sits on top of City Hall now. When we do our surveying, we're running off that. We're running off the satellites. But it's set up basically on a radio link system, so you're limited in range from City Hall. Usually it's about a 4-mile perimeter from City Hall, any direction you go. What the Leica base station is, we use Trimble, but Leica works basically with any of the equipment out there, and it's set up so as we get a free network license from them to run our survey equipment, and instead of a radio link, it's a data link. We use this at TxDOT. We had a network set up so you can work in a wide range. Leica, what they were looking at by mounting it onto City Hall is it closes their network for this region out here. They have one in Midland, one in Lubbock. They're working on one in Big Spring right now. But the way it works, it's a triangulated network off of the satellites. And so it allows us, we get a free license to use it as a city. And it allows us to work, exponentially a lot further than what we're getting range now. And it's a data link, so you'll either dial in with a cell phone or you'll have a SIM card in our data collectors that works, through AT&T, and it dials in and it gives us more range. But it's basically a free service from Leica for us to use as a city. The public will have to pay just like, Sirius Satellite or XM radio, those type of things that work off a satellite where you pay a monthly fee. Surveyors in the region or contractors or oil companies that want GPS real-time data will have to pay for the service.
Okay.
But we're leaving ours up there too, so we'll still throw out free radio link that's local. So a lot of the surveyors that use that still get that free too. We're not taking ours down. But.
Well, and it's one of those gift horse things. I never saw in there how they were going to pay for this, and I know nothing's free and they're not just giving it to us, but I understand now how it's going to be cost effective. Now, as far as the equipment, is it anything that's going to take any work on the city's part as far as beefing up the roof or?
No, sir. It's a small unit that'll be mounted to a pole just like what we have up there now. You won't see it. It's kind of in the center of the roof off of a pulpit that mounts up there.
Right.
And Leica maintains it The only thing that we'll be using is they'll connect their data link through our data system that I've talked to IT about, so we can upload data, but they'll maintain it. It's, no cost out of the city's pocket, so.
Thank you, Mr. Ward. That's all I had. Move for approval.
I'll second.
We do have a motion to approve. We do have a second. Do I have any further comment from the, I can't keep this microphone turned on.
That's fine.
Is it on now? We do have a motion. We do have a second. Is there a comment from the public on this? If not, I will call for the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Council.
Okay, that will take care of our consent agenda. Moving on then to the public hearing and comment. This is under the heading G. Number 10, update on participation and status of the employee wellness program presented by Human Resource Director Lisa Marley and Cheryl Pfluger, Director of Business Development, San Angelo Community Medical Center. Your own, ma'am.
Good morning, Mayor and council members. Every year since 2011, we've conducted a wellness program with our employees. If you recall, when we contracted with Community Medical Center, we contracted to have a wellness coordinator as part of that contract. And so each year we do health screenings and health risk assessments with all our employees, those employees who are on our insurance. This morning we have Cheryl Pfluger, as you mentioned, the Director of Business Development for Community Medical Center. She's going to present our status and update of where we are with our employment. And then she has several members from community that are here with her as well that I'm sure she'll introduce to the group. Cheryl?
Welcome, Ms. Pfluger.
Okay. Well, Mayor and council members, San Angelo Community Medical Center is happy to be here this morning to give our annual report. And we have our CEO, Eric Becker, with us, and then also our wellness coordinators, Mary Solomon and Janet Charlesworth. So let's see here. We started this year with 99% of the HRAs of the people in the city completing the HRAs, which is an unbelievable percentage. We started in 2011 with 698 members completing the HRAs, and so this was wonderful to have 99% this year. Weight, nutrition, and blood pressure are still our top three priorities that we're working with. And while there's a lot of opportunity for improvement, we have to commend the employees and the city for taking this step in wellness. The overall wellness score is 68, and that is up from 67 in 2011, down just a tick in 2012. We had a 69 score, and that's out of 100, and that's doing well. You can see the blue part of the pie chart is you've moved from excellent from 14% in 2011 to 16% in 2013. And also the needs improvement part of the pie chart is also moving down, so that's good. We are improving the score there. And the 80-20 rule applies in health. Usually 80% of your cost is from 20% of your employees, and that's usually what we're facing with any type of employment group. And as those risks go up, then you also have your health care costs that are going up and the quality of life going down. And currently, there are 110 employees that have 5 or more risk factors. And in 2011, we started with 123, so that's down 9%. This is the economic impact that I want to show you. You can look at one risk factor, and these are excess health care costs over and above what your normal health care cost is. And if you have one risk, you're looking at $861, and then you look at 2 risks, you double that cost. Move down into the red category where the 110 employees are, and you're looking at almost $5,000 of extra health care costs that are calculated with the health care risk. So that is what the wellness program is about, and that is what we're trying to tackle with the health care risk. You can see in 2011, 15% of the employees were in that health care the 5 healthcare risk and more, and it's moved down to 13.8. So that is that's good, moving in the right direction. So what do these healthcare risks do? They cause the chronic diseases. So the chronic diseases that we're looking at are diabetes, heart disease, cancer, metabolic syndrome, and osteoporosis. If you look at the red, the line on diabetes, the top line, the gold part of the bar is at risk, and the red part of the bar is high risk. And that's our most significant concern that we have. You also can look at the 2011 score of the high-risk people at 45%, and that's moving down to 42%. So it's moving in the right way, but you can see it's still a significant concern with diabetes. Heart disease is the next thing, and 35% in 2011, moving down to 31% in the high-risk category. That's still also a significant concern. And you can look at cancer. Although that the bar is still the same, the high-risk portion has moved down by 3%. Metabolic syndrome, we're dealing with those issues and still tackling those. And then osteoporosis is one of the things that results, in healthcare concerns. I'm going to go into just 3 of the diseases. Diabetes, a third of the people do not know that they're diabetic, and usually we're dealing with type 2 diabetes. Only 5% of the people are dealing with type 1 diabetes. So this is type 2 diabetes, and it's largely preventable. And so our action steps are that anyone 45 years or older should have a screening for diabetes, and anyone younger than 45 with a BMI of 30 and that also has a risk factor should also have a blood glucose test. And 78% of the employees are at risk for diabetes. 42% are at the high risk, which you saw on the chart just a minute ago. Those major risk factors that contribute to diabetes are obesity, nutrition, and low HDL. And you can see that with the city employees, 40.7% of the employee workforce has a BMI of over 30, and that's compared to a national norm of 32. So that's something to look at and to see if we can make some headway on that. Nutrition, people dealing with nutritional issues, poor nutrition, 65% of the employee force, and that's compared to 59% of a national base. And then low HDL, 33.7% have HDL less than 40, and that's dealing with 17% of the national average. Heart disease, 70 to 80% of heart disease is linked to modifiable health risk, and obviously eliminating health risks like poor diet and lack of exercise would help the heart disease, and also paying attention to heart attack signs. Again, you look at the major risk at the bottom, obesity, low HDL, and metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome is something that we're really paying attention to, with 37% of the people in the employee workforce dealing with that, with a national norm of 23. So you can see with all these trends, we're quite a bit higher than the national average of the healthcare cost. Yes?
Cheryl, can you describe metabolic syndrome?
Right. It's risk factors that are clustered together. And when all of those are clustered together, they cause a significant risk that is kind of a forecast of what your health could look like in the future. And it deals with heart disease and diabetes. You're looking at a waistline that's too large, high triglycerides, you've got low HDL, high blood pressure, some of those issues that you put some of those together, at least 3 of those risk factors together, and you get the metabolic syndrome. So it's a good forecast of what's to come for the future. So 2/3 of cancer deaths can be prevented, and so getting our proper checkups with that and encouraging people to get those checkups are something that our wellness people are looking at all the time. And the major risks with those are the tobacco, the obesity, and the low physical activity. And actually, we're better than the national norm on the smoking and tobacco and the low physical activity, but it's still something to look at. These are the cancer screenings. The bar in the blue are the compliant people, and then the red is non-compliant. And this is a self-reported report from the employees that say that 70% of them are compliant with mammograms, 78% with Pap test, prostate 52%, and colon screening 46%. That's really a great percentage, but this is something that we go on and on with education to encourage people to make sure that they get their cancer screenings. And in 2012, the city began paying for all of these tests at 100%. So this is a matter of education to get this word to the employees. So what causes these chronic diseases? What we're looking at and what came back on the health risk assessments and from the biometric data that we received were good nutrition, weight management, high blood pressure, physical activity, sleep, and osteoporosis. And those were the top modifiable risks that we were looking at. If you look at that bar once again at the top, nutrition is far and away the basis of most of the problems that we're dealing with and weight. Then you look at blood pressure, but you also look at the red lines. 51% of the people dealt with nutritional issues in 2011, and that's dropped to 43%, so we're making some great headway there. With weight, we've dropped in the high-risk category from 44% to 41%, and blood pressure, we're still dealing with some major issues with that. We do think that possibly allergies at the time of the year when we were testing might have played a factor in the blood pressure test, and then also maybe a lack of communication on blood pressure medicine. We're not sure everybody was taking their blood pressure medicine on the particular day when we tested, so we were looking at that again and following and tracking the people. Fitness, we still have a lot of work to do with that, and sleep and osteoporosis. Just two things on these risk factors. Obviously, nutritional factors are the foundation for everything that we're doing. They're a great foundation, and encouraging people to eat more grains and fruits and vegetables are one of the challenges for any employee group, and especially for 77% of the employees, and that's compared to 82% last year that were not having proper nutrition, so that's going down. And then they have 6 nutritional deficits, and people with 10 deficits are 42%. The employee weights, even though this we've got a lot of red there, it's going in the right direction. So the obese population is 45% in 2011, and it's dropped to 40.7%. And of the very obese, which is a darker shade of red there, that's dropped from 18% to 16.7%. Then you look at the people with healthy weights, and that's gone from 15% up to 17%. So that's all moving in the right direction. If you go down to the bottom box, you're looking at national norms down there. Healthy weight for the national norm is 33%, and the city has 17%. And if you look at the very obese, the national trend is 12% compared to 16.7%. Okay, when you look at the excess cost, what we did was take 15 of the risk, individual risk, and we ranked those by what they cost per risk. And these are excess healthcare costs that these risk factors can cost. And interestingly, it surprised me, the highest per risk was high stress. And we have 70 employees that scored that they had high stress, which means they have 3 or more stress risk factors. And that's at $1,800 basically for that particular risk factor. And you multiply that times 70 people, and you get nearly $130,000 of excess cost. Then you look at physical inactivity, which is no regular exercise at all, and it's another $1,800, and that's 83 people that reported that. Then you get down to high blood pressure, which again, I'm not sure if that's a little skewed or not, but that's $500,000 of excess cost at $1,800. Smoking would be at $1,700, and we have dropped from the beginning of the program from 100 people down to 88 people, which is a nice win for any time we can do that. And then you look at people that are overweight, and that was 515 people that's dropped down to 489. And that's $750,000 that are turning into healthcare cost. When you put all that together, if you put all the risk factors that everybody in the city has, you would have $3 million of excess healthcare cost. It's not reasonable to think that you could drop all that, but even if you did like a tenth of risk factors like we've been chiseling away, you might have $300,000 of savings. And this, the risk factors were taken from a University of Michigan study where they put 205,000 people in the study and they associated risk factors with the cost, and that's the study that comes up with the numbers. So in 2013, we were very proud to have the 99% rate from the HRAs being completed, and that is filling out the lifestyle questionnaire and taking the biometric data. We have 42% of the employees that improved their overall wellness score, and we dropped the excess health care claims by reducing risk. We had 5 or more risk factors, people dropped in that category by 9%, improved the nutrition of 249 people, and reduced obesity by 3%. You can see 29 people lost more than 20 pounds. Now I want to introduce Mary Solomon and Janet Charlesworth for the risk factors that we're dealing with and the diseases we're dealing with. We've got 2 of the leading experts in our town. Janet Charlesworth is a wonderful fitness person for staff. She's been the director of the health club and wellness coordinator for us. And Mary Solomon is a clinical dietitian with our staff, and she deals with diabetes and has held the hand and discovered many people in our workforce here that have had issues. So I'm going to let them wrap up what we've done for 2013 and what we're looking forward to in 2014. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pfluger. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you for having us. I'm grateful to be in San Angelo today because my hometown is -11 in Minnesota. And so we're also grateful that Mary and I got the chance to be a part of this wellness program. This is actually the fun part of our job. We have a lot of passion with health and fitness and wellness and nutrition. So we were excited. This was our first year to be a part of the program and implement the wellness program with the city. You'll see some of the programs that we did had heavy focus on fitness, nutrition, smoking cessation classes, and then nutrition as far as fruit and vegetable challenges. We did various challenges throughout the year. Our goal this upcoming year is to get a lot more people involved and make a bigger impact. We want a lot more people involved in our challenges, and we've got some ideas for that. One of our most successful programs we did was at the latter part of the year, which was our Biggest Loser contest, and we had 82 employees participate in that. They lost over 382 pounds. Our top male lost 26 pounds, and our top female lost 16 pounds. And we did this all over the Thanksgiving holiday also, so their final weigh-in was the week after Thanksgiving. But it sparked a lot of interest, and we found out from many of the employees that that was their biggest need, and they had the most fun participating in a weight loss challenge. So we plan on doing many more of those type of events for the future, and we've got another one of those starting at the end of January, in fact. Do I go page down? So we found out from our health risk assessment that this is really what employees want. Their main interests are nutrition, weight management, stress reduction, and then help with medication costs. They also want lifestyle change as far as being physically more active. They feel like they want to practice better eating habits. Unfortunately, the West Texas diet doesn't coincide well with the Mediterranean diet or the DASH diet that's prescribed for high blood pressure, but we're making strides in educating our employees on that. They want more tobacco cessation classes, and of course they want to lose weight or maintain a healthy weight. Their perception of the city of San Angelo's creating a healthy workplace is very good. 22.3% rated them as excellent, and then 49% good interest in creating a healthy workplace. So we felt those numbers were very positive. We have a lot of things planned. We're excited about 2014. Now that Mary and I really got our feet wet in 2013, we're ready to take it to another level. We are proposing and in the final stages of developing a point system where as employees that participate in our challenges and any of our wellness programming will get various points, and they will accrue to where they can get a day off for on their birthday, or possibly 2 days off, depending on how many points they accrue throughout the system. The goal of this point system is to create motivation, additional motivation, and attention, and getting more interest in people who are non-compliant or who aren't participating in any of the challenges or programs. We also are excited and would like to create a wellness committee with wellness champions from various city employees becoming wellness champions. One of the things that we're doing with the wellness program is creating a foundation to apply to become a well workplace. And we're doing all the things through our wellness program, but one of the things that we're missing is a wellness team or a wellness committee of city employees who help promote our cause and support it and get employees excited about what we're doing. And they also help bring back ideas to us of what employees want and what we can do better. And once we create a well workplace, we can also go out and apply to become a well city. So we're looking at doing those type of things. Also, we would like to extend a larger health club discount possibly to our city employees. Currently, we offer a 20% discount for them to come to Community Health Club. And when you looked at the figures earlier, you see that fitness is a big factor in being successful in many of these areas that we're deficient in. And so we're looking at providing actually a 50% discount for our city employees to come exercise at Community Health Club in an effort to promote more exercise. As mentioned earlier, we're going to start a Get Lean in 2014 weight loss challenge. It starts on March 28th. It'll be an 8-week challenge, and then we will also be doing various weight loss challenges throughout the year as suggested by the city employees. We are also looking at classes. Mary is a diabetes educator, so she's going to be starting some diabetes education classes for the city employees, continually working on the diabetes issues that we're seeing. This last year, one of the things we did is as part of the lab work that we did, is we added an A1C diabetes test. What that does is it helps give us a clearer picture, not just taking a sample of someone's blood glucose, but the A1C tells us what their blood glucose or blood sugars have been doing for the past 2 to 3 months. So it gives us a much better picture of their diabetes and what their risks are for that. And by doing that test this past year, we found a lot more issues with diabetes, and we were able to spend some one-on-one time working with employees who had elevated A1Cs. There are some other classes we would like to do as far as label reading to help folks with their nutrition, sodium swap, because of the elevated blood pressures we're seeing in a lot of folks. We will be doing a sodium swap challenge, quit smoking, and then a downsize fitness class for the overweight or obese employees. And then as far as exercise goes, we're having several challenges come up this year, which we would like to implement. 70,000 steps in 7 days, which is a national walking challenge through the Medical Fitness Association. We also would like to implement a Walk Across Texas program, and this is through the Texas Ag Life that sponsors that program. Then a mile per day challenge, and then a High Nooners Walking Club. And then we'd like to possibly promote in June, it's National Employee Wellness Month, and possibly doing a first annual City Managers Walk to Wellness 5K. I'd like to talk to you more about that. But getting more employees involved in fitness activities. And one of the things that's kind of new out there is called a virtual 5K, where folks who, as you see, 40% of our employees are obese. Some of these people aren't going to feel comfortable coming to a 5K race, but they can do a virtual 5K where they can go to, say, Community Health Club and do their 5K on a treadmill or on the walking track. And it's kind of a new thing that's coming, but it helps get people who normally wouldn't show up to a 5K event to participate. So we've got a lot of exciting programs we're looking forward to. And we would, as far as health management, utilize the city clinic more, primary care providers, and the wellness program to manage the health of the City of San Angelo employees. We want to continue with our one-on-one counseling with employees. Mary has done a lot of work in that area this past year, especially with the diabetic folks. We'd like to continue to monitor the employees with high risk of diabetes, 42%. And then encourage employees to get their recommended cancer checkups. Next month is National Cancer Prevention Month, and we will be doing a huge push on encouraging employees to get their cancer screenings. And then we would like to develop clinical protocols with physicians for the chronic diseases. And again, it's been a pleasure this last year serving you and working with our city employees. We look for many more positive success stories to come. We had a wonderful success story just this past week, and these are stories that we're seeing all the time, but I think, Mary, you should share that with them.
Okay, so unfortunately I had a patient, well, an employee that his A1C came back abnormal, and he had indicated on his health risk assessment that he didn't have diabetes. So I had to give that phone call to review his lab outcomes. And he said he would come by. He actually had an appointment with his primary care physician the following week, which would be this week. And so I asked him if he didn't have access to the internet, so I couldn't email him his results. I couldn't, he couldn't look up his results on his health risk assessment online. So he said he would come by at noon, and he actually came by immediately. And I was able to test his blood pressure again because when he did his screening, his blood pressure was also elevated. And it was elevated again, 150 over 100. He was on 2 blood pressure medications, and he was paying $100 a month for his blood pressure medications. So I was able to help him obtain a discount card online to make one of his $50 medications, bring it down to $4 a month. So I was able to help him save money on his blood pressure meds. And even though he got bad news about his diabetes, he was able to take those results with him to his doctor's appointment, save money on his prescription costs for his blood pressure meds. And he was actually happy when he left the office. And these are just a few of, just doing those little things. Actually, he walked out very grateful, very appreciative of the time that was spent with him and the money that he was able to save, even though he had heard that he had the bad news. But there are many, many others. We have also done a PSA screening this year, and we were able to detect some elevated PSAs and able to make appointments for those patients with a urologist to follow up. So it has been very rewarding to help these people, and it's something that we really enjoy doing, and we look forward to in 2014 helping them.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that report. Sound like we're doing something right.
Thank you.
I had a quick question.
Yes, sir.
I was going to ask Cheryl, but how in the world are you measuring sleep when it comes to the city employees? How are you doing that?
That's a self-reported part of the test on the HRA. Some of these are lifestyle questionnaires.
Okay.
And you answer those questions, and that's part, you measure the lifestyle questionnaires and the answers with that, with your biometric data, and that gets your health risk assessment. Sleep is one of those rarely seen out lifestyle type questionnaire.
Okay.
Don?
I think my questions go to Lisa. From what I remember, right before I retired, all of this was geared toward our employees and not our retirees, and yet our retirees were the ones that were taking a big chunk of our medical monies. Is it still like that?
It is still like that at this present time. Retirees who are under our insurance are still allowed to use the clinic as necessary, but the portion of participating in the wellness screening, no. There is a cost associated with purchasing the HRAs and the health risk assessment, so we have not included the retirees in that batch.
Well, wouldn't that be smart to do? I mean, it's kind of like Cheryl was talking about the 80-20. If the bulk of our monies are going out for the retirees' health, and yet we're not including them in this, if we're going to be saving money, wouldn't that be the smart thing to do?
It would be. We have more employees covered than we have retirees covered at this point, so we were trying to attract the largest group of folks that we have. We also don't have the influence over the retirees to make it mandatory like we do for the employees. So that's been another consideration that we thought about.
Right. But here again, as far as the discount to the health club, are those given to the retirees also? Okay.
They are, absolutely, through the clinic.
How do you get that information out to them?
If they come into the clinic, the discount cards are present at the clinic for them to pick up and use. We don't have a database to contact our retirees at this point. We've been working to establish that, but not all retirees have email addresses, so we don't have a real good method of getting that word out. But all of the discounts are handed out through the clinic.
Okay. I personally didn't even realize as a retiree I could use the clinic.
As long as you have our insurance, absolutely.
And so, and as a retiree, I have your insurance, our insurance. So I would like to see us look at some way to include the retirees more. And like I said, I understand that the number's small, but the outlay of monies is great. So, and I understand also that we can't mandatorily do this, but I think, if we inform them, a lot of them would love to take part in some of these things, and they're just not aware that they can.
Sure. We'll work on getting that word out.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other? Rodney?
Is there any way we can get a copy of the slide presentation?
Absolutely.
Please.
We can email it to you.
Thank you.
Johnny?
Yeah, I have to ask, if this program is a mandatory, so then that 1% that's not participating, how does that?
They're charged more for their health insurance.
Oh.
The council approved a 20% increase in the cost of their premiums, and so those employees, instead of paying $13.20 a month, they paid $74.14 a month. And then that extra money that we receive, we use to pay for some of the programs that the wellness coordinators offer. This year, though, the numbers were very small. We only had 5 folks that didn't participate, so we're going to get about $4,500 this year.
So even those diabetes classes, is there going to be a cost to the employee? Or,
No, no.
There's not. That's great.
Marty?
I was going to make a comment about Mr. Bartman's program, but I think it's best left alone.
Sometimes that is the case.
Thank you.
Anything else to be said? Anybody from the public care to comment on this? If not, then we thank you very much for the report.
Thank you for doing this for the city.
Sounds good. We've got something to work toward.
I don't know that we've all met the CEO.
Why don't you come up
Mr.
and
Eric.
introduce yourself, please, sir.
We got to get a little something out of him.
I came to a meeting, several months ago. There was a health proclamation that I came to. Yeah, my name's Eric Becker. Been here now for 15, 16 months. Came from Houston, originally from Virginia. And so I'm a long way from home, but I do like San Angelo, and I enjoy Texas. Been here now off and on for over 10 years.
Thank you, Eric.
Great, thank you.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Eric and I both came on board right about the same time. I think that's when we met, I think about a month apart, so absolutely.
Charlotte is on the way. Why don't we take a 5-minute break, and maybe by the time we come back to talk about the SEAL Coat program, she will be here. Let's take about 5. 10:01. Let's move on now to the next one on the idea, which is the next item on the agenda, number 11, update and discussion on matters related to the 213 Seal Coat project. Carl Bednarz and Shane Kelton. Yes, sir.
Morning, Mayor, City Council. I'm Carl Bednarz, City Engineer here in San Angelo. I'll visit with you about the seal coat that was applied last summer today. Let's give you a briefing on it. Just to start off, I might talk about the project just briefly on that. We did approximately 900,000 square yards in the city. A little under 1.6 million, or right at 1.6 million, a little under 1.7, which was a budget for this, so we were under budget on this project. And I understand from past seal coats, this is a rather large seal coat project from what we've done in the past, probably 3 times the size of what we've done in the past. So, we began September 3rd and ended September 14th. Just a little over 2 weeks there of paving operations, went very fast, and Brandon Paving Company for Victoria was the contractor. I just kind of let everybody know what a seal coat is, why we do a seal coat. A seal coat's a preventive maintenance activity. It extends the life of a roadway. Normally you put that seal coat down every 7 years would be an industry standard. Here in San Angelo we do that probably a lot farther apart than that just due to budget constraints in the past. So that the roads do get a little drier in between seal coats than normal. How does it extend the life of roadway? Seal coats seal narrow cracks in the roadway. Some of them you can see, some of them you can't see really with the naked eye. It prevents intrusion of water into the base, and base course is a foundation for the roadway itself. And once you start getting water to your base course, then your failures are soon to follow. And what are some other benefits of seal coat? It also increases the resistance to skidding and hydroplaning. You know, once you put on a seal coat, tires can grab more on the rock. Helps you with stopping, and also helps you in rain because it keeps the rain down below the rocks and helps you with stopping in those conditions. We broke the contractors broke down into 4 areas, A, B, C, and D, just in our contract. I'll show you some sides, kind of where they were. This first one is in the Bluff subdivision. I do show a legend over there. It's really not applicable here. We're just some of the roads on the seal coat required a stripe to go back. Not many roads inside our seal coat require a stripe. They're just local city streets. But if you wonder what the green and the red is over there on the side, that's what that is. Those are the roads we did in the Bluffs this year. Here's some roads in Area B that is kind of central San Angelo, I guess, west central San Angelo. Area C would be downtown San Angelo mostly, some up in the northeast part of town. And Area D is Southland Addition and some toward Lake Nazarworthy. The problems that we're seeing with seal coat, loose gravel would be an issue that we're seeing. Small to medium to large areas where gravel is either crushed or came off, or just kind of a bald area you see out in the road. Dust coming off vehicle tires as a result of the aggregate crushing would be that causing that. Road just being rough. I mean, once you lose rock on part of the road and you have rock on others, then it creates a kind of a washboard effect in some places. And the seal coat really didn't seal the cracks as intended in some places, if asphalt was not sufficient enough to do its job there. Threw in some pictures here to look at, so if you haven't seen what we're looking at, this is on Irving Street here in downtown, just west of the City Hall, on the other side of the river, looking back towards City Hall. You can see, I might show with my mouse here, you can see the balding areas in these areas here, and somewhere over in this area here also.
Carl, that's the areas where the gravel didn't take, is that correct?
Yeah, the gravel's left, yeah. Here's another picture in the Southland Addition. Again, you see some areas over in here, long stretch here. Kind of typical of what we see throughout. And not throughout, but for the most part, this is typical. Another picture, and you see some of the kind of same thing there. I did throw in one good picture. I've personally driven every road that we seal coated in the last couple of weeks, and there are some good ones out there. This is what we wish they all look like, but this is one that looks good. What could have caused these issues? There's seal coat. It looks real easy. It's just putting down asphalt and putting rock on top of it, but it's really an art to doing it. Contractors that do it, most of them have been doing it a long time, so they're real familiar on how to do it. And but some of the material problems that we may have had is the the two materials we have is asphalt and rock. And the asphalt has a lot of specifications that are required of it. It's in our contract. Viscosity would be one, hardness, polymers, and that's something that is spec'd and should be correct. The rock also has to be a certain hardness, and we have that spec'd in our contract. Another thing that could have caused this would have been asphalt rate could have been too light. It needs to be heavy enough to where it actually sticks the rock and grabs a hold of it. Aggregate rate may have been too heavy. If we put the aggregate down too heavy on a seal coat, you think you're doing a better job because it's covering it more. But if you put too much, it really just kind of rolls around like marbles on top, and it just grinds down and actually can dislodge some underneath, and that could be an issue. Equipment problems, the piece of equipment that puts asphalt down is called a distributor, and it has a sprayer bar behind it, and we want a certain rate to put that asphalt down to stick it, and we rely on them to tell us that what rate we ask for a certain rate that it's putting that rate down, and that could have been an issue. Work occurred late in the season. That's seal coat season can generally run anywhere from like April to November. This has happened in September, which is normally a good time to put down seal coat. It's kind of later in the year. Earlier in the year you get a better cure because it's get more time for it to just cool off. But September still could be a good time to put down seal coats. There's been many seal coats put down in the past in September. So, ice storms, I think there was two of them actually that probably sat on the seal coat where the ice just sat there for a few days, and anything that was really marginal probably let go during that time too. It didn't help matters. I mean, normally this ice shouldn't affect seal coat, but I mean, if it's marginal, it's going to create problems. I just want to let you know what we're doing about this right now. We're testing the materials. We take a sample of every, what's called a tanker, for better words, that brings the asphalt in. It's a huge 18-wheeler, brings the asphalt in. They pump off of it to put the asphalt down. We take a sample of each one of those that comes in. I think we had 32 samples. We send off a part of those to get tested. It's a out-of-town laboratory that's doing this testing for us. We've also had some aggregate that was left over from the seal coat and stockpiles, and we've sampled that aggregate and we sent that off to get tested. And we're probably about 2 weeks, within 2 weeks now of getting tests back on those results back. In discussions with the contractor, I have ridden many of the roads with the superintendent that did the job. We looked at it. He sees there are some problems with it. I had some discussions with their home office last week about this, and they've done work for us in the past, this contractor has, and has done has done seal coat for many, many years. They're one of the, I would say one of the better contractors in the state doing seal coat work, and they're very interested in working for us again, and they're agreeable to come back and visit with us and see what we can do with this project. So we are in the process of identifying any problems that are out there. Like I said, I've ridden every road in the city that we seal coated last year, looking at where the problems are. We did have a warranty clause in our contract, and we're looking into how we could possibly enforce that on this contract. That's really all I have right now. I think about 2 weeks I should have some data back on the test to see if there was a material issue. That'll give us a good indication of where we need to go. As soon as I get that, I'll be able to put a plan together of how we need to proceed and bring you back some more information at that time.
Questions, council?
Yeah, Carl, first of all, can I get a copy of the presentation you just gave to us?
Sure.
The slide presentation. I've had several residents that are in my district back in Southland that the streets were done back there that I haven't looked at all the streets citywide. I didn't realize that we had gone to as many areas as we had. And I guess back in the Southland areas, the streets I looked at also were really bad. Do you think that some of those will be covered by warranty, or do you think we're going to have to?
It's almost like flipping a coin right now. I really don't know until I see these test results.
I understand. I'm not going to push you for that. But you're going to come back to us and tell us what we're going to do and try to get a game plan going of how we are going to correct it, because some of them are really real bad back there. We would have been much better not doing it at all in some areas.
I would agree with you. After I got my personal rating system on each road, and the majority of the failures were, as a whole, were in Southland Edition. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Dwayne?
Yes, sir.
Or Johnny, go ahead.
Go ahead, Don.
I was just wondering, how much are the lab tests costing us?
Probably, this is an estimate. Last week, I think we were looking at about $5,000.
If it is the fault of the contractor, will he reimburse us for that?
We can certainly look at that.
I think that's something that we probably need to if it's his fault, and we determine it through the lab results.
That's a good point.
Okay.
Brother Silvas?
Yeah, I can attest to the taxpayers out there not being happy at all, Carl,
Yes.
and you know that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've driven up and down that Irving Street.
Oh, yeah.
I've gotten calls from Avenue C, Avenue D, Powell Street behind Fort Concho, the dust. You know, just the bare levels that are left there after. I don't know if you guys went back and swept up the gravel or what you did.
Yeah.
But you know, what was the price tag on the whole project?
It was a little under 1.7 million.
Okay.
1.689.
Now, when I read on here that all material passed specification, did you or somebody order that certain type of asphalt, or what happens there? How did
What happens on for that particular statement? Let me tell you about the rock first. The rock comes out of Uvalde. It's a Vulcan plant, and we specify a certain type of rock, and the contractor's free to bid on low bid wherever source he can get the best price. And this price is a source, a quarry that supplies rock all over South Texas and up into this area. It's a very, very large quarry. And TxDOT actually tests that material every day, the material that goes out of the plant. They test by a certain amount of material. So what we do is we rely on those tests. I mean, everybody in this area goes back to a certain day. If the rock was hauled on, say, September 3rd, they can go back to that test and say, okay, this test was run on September 3rd, and it's a representative sample of the material that was crushed that day. So that takes care of their aggregate. On the asphalt, we supply, if I remember the contract, it had 3 or 4 options for the contractor to pick from, and there's different specifications for each one of those options. Some of them are the same, some are a little bit different because they're different materials. They're all asphalt, but they're different name brands or have somewhat different properties. And again, he picks whichever one of those he wants to make a profit, I guess. And they're all individually are good materials. They're just a little different. And they were tested at the refinery, the same kind of way the rock is. The refineries are cranking out asphalt all day, every day for that period of time, and we go back and rely on that. Now I'm testing from the field because if really we want to make sure the material tests or passes what we put on the road. And something could happen between where it's delivered. Who knows? I mean, that's what we're testing right now.
Well, certainly that warranty clause that you mentioned is something that I'm very much interested in, as well as whatever council person up here, because again, we're just being the voice for those people out there who experience this bad experience, and and it's bad.
I agree.
So I would hope that if a project is done wrong, I would hope that contractor would come back and do it right. I don't know. Discussions, sure, discuss it, but if it's wrong, it's wrong. And I think the 1.7 million that came out of the taxpayers' pockets need to be rectified. Yes. And again, I don't know what else to say other than there are a lot of very unhappy folks out there that, and I'm not blaming you, and I don't know if your department goes out there and physically looks at that aggregate, or or do you pick it online? Do you go online and do that? I don't know how it's done, but there's some folks out there that are, and I'm not going to beat this horse anymore, but they're very, very unhappy people out there. So I hope that we can make them happy and build their trust that we're looking after their bottom line. So
I hope to do that. That's my goal.
How soon are you going to in these discussions? Are they ongoing, or are they?
Yeah, they're ongoing. As soon as I get the test results back, I talked to the contractor Friday, and kind of tentatively set up a meeting for the end of the month, sometime during that last week.
What is the name of that contractor?
Brannon Paving.
Branham?
They're pretty big, aren't they?
Yes, very big.
Yeah, they're pretty reputable too.
Yeah,
I
they-
would think they would
They would.
stand behind their product if it finds out that.
For my career at TxDOT, they probably did half of the 20 years that I was really responsible for it. Probably they did half of that number of years, and they did a good job every year. So I mean, this is.
So we went in there and swept up the loose gravel and did. Is it all stockpiled somewhere? Or are they going to reuse that same material?
No,
or-
that's it's basically wasted.
Okay.
Shane's bunch has had their street sweepers sweeping nonstop since Christmas, pretty much, on all the roads, and the rock that they're dumping after they sweep a road, it wouldn't be usable.
Oh, we can make it good and keep everybody happy.
We will make it good.
How do we pick the streets that are seal coated?
Shane, that might be. I've only been here 4 months, so Shane might can allude to that. I know how we're going to do it. I hope we're going to do it in the future.
Mm-hmm. In the past, we've both looked at engineering services, and their inspectors go out and they're driving all the streets every day. All of my guys over in Street and Bridge, as we're going out and we're crack sealing, and our guys are taking observations of the streets as well. We put our heads together and we try to find the streets, especially in the past when we were only doing 300,000 square yards versus the 900,000 square yards, trying to find the streets that it would make the most impact to seal coat. Because until this last year, our seal coat rate was about once every 23 and a half years. So this year I've bumped it down to once every about 12 and a half to 13 years. So we're making ground and we're doing better. And so as we do that, and it becomes a lot more cyclical, it will just become every 7-year pattern. We're hoping that's where we get. In the past, we've just concentrated on the areas where we felt we could do the most good with what little product we had to put down.
Okay. All right.
And it is about preserving those certain streets that you take a look at. You don't want them to get in any worse condition. So the ones that are ideal for this application are the ones that we focus on, so that we don't have a major issue in the future where some of that did seep into the base and destroyed the foundation. And then it cost a lot more money for the city. So right now we just want to prevent that from happening. But as Shane mentioned, the ultimate goal that we've been working on is to go on a 7-year rotation.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any further council comment on this? Any further council from the right? We do have a problem, and I'm glad that you're looking at it and doing some tests, and hopefully there will be some recourse, because I personally don't feel we got what we paid for. But after we get our test in, we can determine that. Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate you. All right, let's move on. Welcome, Ms. Farmer.
Thank you.
Let's move on to number 12. This is public comment for and against annexation of certain properties situated immediately west-southwest of San Angelo, encompassing the Community of Faith subdivision, being 4 acres of Section 3, Block 1, Lot 3, extending southwest from Southland Boulevard, located directly east of an 8.995 acre tract annexed to the city limits on March 5, 2013. That comprises of Preston Wood Addition, Section 2. Ms. Faber?
Thank you very much, and good morning. This piece of property is probably not unfamiliar to you. We talked about this at a previous council meeting where you as a group accepted the petition of the property owner. As state law prescribes, we must have 2 public hearings, and so today is the first of those 2. To clarify, you will not be taking any action today, and we are not asking you for any recommendations. We are simply making it available to the public to give us any insight that they might have. The piece of property that we're talking about is in the far southwest part of the city, and here's a closer look at that. Again, as we talked about at the time of the hearing of petition, the properties to the north, to the east, to the south, and now to the west are all within the city limits. This one remaining tract of property is currently outside the city limits, and here is an aerial photograph. It doesn't show some of the recent developments, but again, that development is occurring to the south and to the west of this property. And we are looking at a timetable which you approved at the time of the hearing of petition. That would include today's public hearing, another hearing on February 4th, introducing an ordinance on February 18th, and then lastly, if all goes well, finalizing that ordinance on March 4th, at which time we would begin the pre-clearance process as required by state law and make this an official annexation. So with that, if you have any questions, I can answer those, and if we have any public comments, we'll take those as well.
Do we have any questions from council? Then I suppose the next thing for me to do is ask, is there any public comment either for or against this annexation? Then we have done our duty.
We have, thank
We'll
you.
we'll see you on the 4th.
I
Yes,
do
sir.
have one Is that property right across from the elementary school? Or what?
It is right across
Is
from
that
Bottom.
not the one we were trying to?
It was the apartment complex.
Yeah.
You might remember that we had done an annexation of this property to the west, and
Mhm.
at that time, the council, we had a couple of different council members at the time, said, please contact this person and see if they would be interested in annexation, as we don't want to have a donut hole exist, so to speak. And so we've worked with that property owner since it changed hands to do this.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
Good time for me to add that I drove all the places yesterday, and if we're not having the street sweepers out there to pick up nails, it would be appreciated if they'd get on schedule, because lots of constructions, lots of nails, and thus flat tire this morning.
Okay.
Yuck.
So we have done our job there.
We have. Thank you very much.
And also, I did not ask for public comment on number 11. We did had council comment, but I did not ask for public comment. So if anyone from the public wants to speak to the seal code, we give you the opportunity now to say what's on your mind. All right, let's move on now to number 13, which is consideration of approving a permit pursuant to the Code of Ordinances, Chapter 5, Article 5, 1400, Carnivals, authorizing San Angelo Stock Show and Rodeo Association and Carnival Americana to operate a carnival during February 14, 2014 through March 2, 2014. Angelica.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. This is basically a housekeeping item. What we are asking the council to do is to consider approving a permit for the Stock Show and Rodeo Association to hold their annual carnival in association with the rodeo. So what we're asking is the council to consider approving the permit request. If you had any questions, I'm here, as well as Justin Jonas from the Rodeo Association, to answer any.
Primarily housekeeping, just to make
Yes,
things
sir.
legal. Do I have any comment from council?
I move that we accept it.
Second.
Don?
Just want to make sure that the fire marshal's permit is paid. In the past, we've had several of these that come in. They're going to pay their permit, and I know at one time the carnival provider was 3 years in arrears. So we can just make sure that's taken care
I'll
of.
follow up with the office to make sure that's paid.
Thank you.
Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I had to go on that carnival schedule. What is it? What is the 911 carnival area? What's just some notes that were made on there? I didn't know what.
Well, what he actually put on there, 911 addressing, he was writing down the address to the San Angelo Fairgrounds so that you'd know where it was taking place. It's just a handwritten note that he put on there.
911. Okay.
Further comment, council?
Because this is a housekeeping thing, can we just make this work? We know the carnival's going to be there every year. Can we just not make it where?
And this is the first time we've actually brought this, so in the next year, it'll just be a consent item, so it won't be an actual.
So we don't want to waste their time every
Sure.
year on having to
It'll be
come up here for
consent,
this.
and it'll be passed every year at that point, so.
I'd like wasting
The other
French
option is
time.
to change the ordinance where we don't have to bring it at all, but we'll look at that from another standpoint.
I just want to make it easier on them. We know that we're going to have the carnival
Sure.
up there, so.
It's been here for 80 years, so.
Yeah.
Do I have public comment on this item? If not, we do have a motion to approve as presented. I do have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Thank you, Angelica.
Thank you.
Let's move on now to item number 14, which is consideration of adopting a resolution approving and adopting the Neighborhood and Family Services Department December 2013 update to the City of San Angelo Neighborhood Revitalization Plan, the NRP, adopted January 2005. Director Bob Salas, you are on, sir.
Let me see if I can find the map on this thing. Can you help me with this? I can't seem to find it. Why? That's probably why, right? No, there it is. Good morning, Mayor, Council. In 2004, the council created a committee to oversee a plan to revitalize distressed neighborhoods. The committee developed guidelines and identified certain areas that ultimately became our target areas: Blackshear, Reagan, Fort Concho, and Rio Vista. Subsequently, the staff published a plan that provides basically a guide to drive us through our rehab efforts. And although we've been following that plan for the last 8 years, it was never officially adopted by council via a resolution. And for us, it's very important to have council approval, especially when you're competing for state and federal funds, such as low-income tax credits. So that's basically what we're here for, is for council to officially adopt that resolution. We did update the plan with new census data. We identified some accomplishments over the last several years, and we expanded the target areas just a little bit because some of the areas were kind of omitted in the original plan. And if you see the map, we're really talking about Reagan and Fort Concho. We're basically just cleaning up those few streets that were not covered earlier. But they're adjacent to the target areas, and it's important to kind of continue looking at those neighborhoods. And we're asking council to approve the plan.
Motion to approve is presented.
Second.
Do I need to read this resolution so that it's in the records?
We have the caption, so probably not. I don't think you have to. So.
All right, but this again, this is bookkeeping, just
It is
housekeeping. We're just trying
basically
to
housekeeping to get that resolution on the record, so we can show it to the state and federal agencies that it is in fact an approved plan.
Very well. Do I have further council discussion on this? Do I have discussion from the public on this? There has been a motion made to accept the resolution, to approve the resolution as presented. All of those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say nay. Thank you, Brother Salas.
Good job on the report. That was
Yeah.
very well put together.
Short, that was the key. We're now moving on to consideration of authorizing staff to negotiate an amendment to an agreement between the City of San Angelo and McLaughlin Advertising, extending the 5 years, authorizing the city manager to execute said agreement. Anthony Wilson.
Mayor, if I may make a request, Stephen McLaughlin is on his way here. You guys went through the agenda a little quicker than we
We're moving on
anticipated.
today. Well, I wondered where Estefan was, because he's not here.
But our next item, we have a guest with us for that one too. So if we could go ahead and maybe do that one, and whilst we wait for Stephen's arrival.
Anybody have a problem with that on the council?
No.
Let's move on to 16. We'll wait for Estefan to get here. Number 16 is consideration of an agreement between the City of San Angelo and HPM Books, authorizing the production of a coffee table book, authorizing the mayor or city manager to execute said agreement. Anthony Wilson. This reminds me of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Kramer made a coffee table book.
You know, it's funny you should mention that because Carl White just asked me if this book will have legs on it.
It even had legs on it and was set on the coffee table.
Yes. So, well, as you said, we're here to seek your authorization for the production of a coffee table book that would spotlight the city of San Angelo. And I think this is a good opportunity for the city in two regards. One is it's not going to cost us a single cent. And the other thing is that we do have full editorial control over the contents of the book. So I'll just briefly go through this presentation. And I have copies of the book here if you guys would like to see copies of what they've done in some other communities. And we have others copies as well that you could take a look at. But HPM Books actually approached the city of San Angelo about this opportunity to produce, as the caption said, a high-quality coffee table book about San Angelo that would be sponsored by the city, but it would be at no cost to us. They have done this for scores of communities across the nation and across our state, including some of our neighbors, Abilene, Midland, Odessa, and Lubbock. And here you can see a cover from one of the books that they have done for Texas City. This was actually for Galveston County. And this gives you sort of an indication. These books are very much photo-driven, and so they're the sort of things I think that people really like to just thumb through and take a look at. This is the book that the cover of the book that they did for Amarillo, and I really like this, and I really love the theme that they came up with for this book is Faces, Places, and Open Spaces. I wish we had thought of that and could have that for our book. And here's just another example from Collin County, and again, you can see that this is going to be primarily photo-driven. There's the inside of one of the books, big, flashy, colorful photos that spotlight the many unique characteristics and good things within your community. There's another one that is actually from the Amarillo book. And here's the terms of the contract. HPN Books will pay all of the production costs. Again, this costs the city nothing at all. Now, the way that they generate revenue is not only by selling the books themselves, but they sell business profiles in the backs of the books. And that's primarily the revenue stream that they rely upon. They will give the city 8% of the business profile sales revenue that they generate. And then in addition to that, they will give us 400 copies of the book itself. The city will, as part of our contract, have approval of all the sales materials, so we can look over that, make sure that we're comfortable with the materials that they're going to be using, selling the book to these businesses that are going to be purchasing the profiles in the back of it. And we do maintain control over the book's content. In fact, I've already talked with the president and CEO of HPN Books, who is here today, about some potential writers and photographers who would be good, I think, to do this sort of work for us. And I would be able to edit all of the content in that. We will provide an invitation letter signed by Mayor Morrison that will then be presented as part of the sales materials to the businesses that are purchasing the profiles in the back of the book. We will receive, and I think this is huge, full permanent use rights of the photos. And so we can use these gorgeous photos however we want in any sort of marketing that we do. As you know, we're in the process of building a website right now, and some of these photos would look really fantastic on our new website. And then, if available, we will provide office space for their sales rep who will come here occasionally to make sales calls. And I've got some ideas for that. But again, that's not critical because so much of that sort of interaction is done, first of all, at the businesses themselves and arranged via cell phone or whatever. So that's not as critical as it once was for HPN Books. Again, I can't emphasize enough, no cost at all to the city. HPN Books is estimating that the city's 8% royalty will equate to about $8,000 in revenue. That, again, is something that might free up some general fund monies from the public information budget. The city may either sell its 400 books and they retail for $39.95 and or use some of those for marketing purposes, maybe giving some of those out to businesses, prospective businesses that are looking at relocating to San Angelo. Could become part of our economic development effort. We are obviously recommending approval of the agreement with HPN Books. As I mentioned, Ron Lammert with HPN Books is here. He's the president and CEO of the company based out of San Antonio. And between the two of us, we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. And like I said, I'm going to approach and just give a copy of the book if y'all want to see some of these.
Anthony, I guess the one question I have is, tell me again, on the business profile sales, how many businesses will be in a book? You said the back page, but is it just? It's not just one.
I'm gonna let Mr. Lammert come up and talk about this, but yeah, there'll be multiple profiles, each of about a page or so in the back of the book. Okay. And so they're hoping to sell about $100,000 worth of these, but I'll let Mr. Lammert explain how that works.
Welcome, Mr. Lambert.
Thank you. You obviously know about coffee table books if you cite the Seinfeld episode. There's really no limit to the number of business stories in the back of the book. However, the book gets bigger. We generally have a mix of a ratio of 60% of the narrative and photography in the front to 40% of the business stories. So the answer is, the more we sell, the bigger the book is, the nicer it is, the more pictures it has.
The more money we make.
Yeah, and the more money you make.
Generate.
Will they be available for sale here in San Angelo?
Oh, yes. We make it available through a national book distributor, which then can make it available to any bookstore. And we do make an effort to make sure that local bookstores carry it. We also make it available for sale to the folks who buy the business stories. And so a lot of our book sales actually go to folks who buy the buy the stories in the second section of the book.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question. The book is beautiful, lots of colored photo arrays. Am I to understand you're going to do a book on the history of San Angelo? No, just the current.
No, this is a contemporary book. We do a couple of different styles of books. We have done history books in a number of locations, and we also do the contemporary books. In visiting with Mr. Wilson, that's really kind of what we came up with that would be most effective and most useful. These books have several dimensions. They're a great collateral piece for economic development. It's also a great way for the city to extend its brand, so to speak, because these books really have commercial potential in terms of sales to your local residents, and it helps give them a little bit better flavor. I mean, they can give them as Christmas gifts and so on. It gives them a little more of a flavor of their community. So we think it does a lot.
What's your time frame on getting the book completed?
It takes a little over a year from start to finish, and we'd like to start in the next month or so. So sometime around the second quarter 2015, the book will be complete.
Don, Marty, y'all have anything to add to this?
I move to approve. Do we need a vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Move to approve this item.
Anybody want to second?
I'll second.
Got a motion, I've got a second. I'm looking at it, I don't see a downside here.
Nope.
Looks to me like you're taking all the risk, and
That's absolutely correct.
we're gonna have a book to sell.
Would it be this size?
Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Sound like a wonderful idea to me. Do we have public comment on this? If not, we do have a motion to approve. We do have a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say nay. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Mr. McLaughlin, you're here. Are you ready, sir? Let's step back then to item number 15. We waited for you, Steve. I've already read this. Consideration authorizing staff negotiated an amendment to an agreement between the City of San Angelo and McLaughlin, advertising extending the term 5 years, authorizing the city manager to set agreement. Brother Wilson.
Well, I'm really happy to be able to stand here and talk about who I think is one of the really good partners for the City of San Angelo, and that's Stephen McLaughlin and McLaughlin Advertising. Some of you may recall that about 3 years ago, we signed a contract with McLaughlin Advertising regarding the placement of paid advertising by the city in the local media. And that agreement expires on April the 29th, and we are here today to seek authorization from the City Council to extend that agreement by another 5 years under the exact same terms that we have right now. And so what are those terms? Well, first of all, I think it's important to note that the city pays McLaughlin Advertising no retainer. We don't pay any markup on the advertisements that we place with the local media through McLaughlin Advertising, and we do not pay McLaughlin Advertising's commission. That's paid by the media outlets with whom he deals. That's how advertising agencies typically work. We pay McLaughlin Advertising only if we ask them to produce an advertisement for us, whether it's a print advertisement or a commercial or a radio spot or whatever. And we also have the opportunity to produce those materials ourselves. And sometimes we do, in fact, do that. You know, we work with McLaughlin to see what would be the best way to handle those sort of situations. We have advertised for everything with McLaughlin Advertising, from water conservation to city events such as Christmas at Old Fort Concho, to the recruitment of fire and police cadets. And in fact, Tony Fox and Bob Bluehart are here. They can speak to the good work that we have gotten from McLaughlin Advertising and with the partnership that we have had from them. I think one of the benefits, and this is one of the reasons that we entered into this contract of having McLaughlin Advertising as our advertising agency, is they have allowed us to make the most effective use of our budgeted advertising dollars. And by that, he knows the business better than we do. And so he's able to strategically place advertising in the appropriate media to reach the appropriate audiences that we want. And not only that, but because he buys in bulk, he's able typically to get a better rate on advertising than we're able to get. And because he knows the business, and through negotiations and through relationships with those media outlets, he is able to get us the best possible rate. And I know Tony Fox in particular can talk about how he has been able to save her operation a lot of money and and get more bang for the buck out of the advertising that she's doing for water conservation. As I said before, McLaughlin has been a great partnership for us. In addition to doing the contract work for us, he's raised a lot of money in sponsorships for some of the events that we do. I just got a text from him yesterday, and he's raised $6,300 this year for Daddy-Daughter Date Night, which he's done that for the last several years, raising sponsorship dollars for us that we never had before we entered into our relationship with McLaughlin Advertising. He did the same thing for Riverfest and raised thousands of dollars in sponsorships for our Riverfest event. And already he's been talking about ways that we can help Fort Concho through its membership drive to recoup some of the lost revenue that they lost from Christmas at Old Fort Concho this year because of the ice storm. So,
Move to approve as presented.
I'll second.
You want to talk, Steve? You satisfied?
There's no need.
Sounds good to me.
I have a question.
Yes, Don.
Do we not have to go out for request for proposal or anything on this, or is this counted as a professional service? Or?
You're correct. It's accounted as a professional service, and I did check with our purchasing manager to make sure that we could extend the contract in this sort of way, and he assured us that this is typically done with these sort of agreements.
Okay.
Further counsel?
Stephen, I do have, or Anthony, I have been asked before that, McLaughlin Advertising, partners with the city. But a lot of folks don't understand the details on what you do. They see the Coliseum, they see the Texas Sports Complex, and do you bring sponsors or advertisers there? So they really don't know the true detail of what it is you do as an advertising company for the city. Could you just kind of give us a brief, very short spill on what it is you bring to the table?
Sure, and there's two different things there. We have a separate contract as Citywise Marketing, which actually we created in response to the first RFP we received from the city, and that is to sell naming rights and advertising at city venues, and that's where the Coliseum naming rights, signs at the airport, and that sort of thing. It's actually a separate company that's incorporated. I hired a sales staff just for that purpose. And so that's what we do for the city there. If somebody wants to advertise at a city facility or attach their name to a city facility, that's what that company does. McLaughlin Advertising, we represent the city of San Angelo in the same way that we do a myriad of small businesses in the community. And that is, we coordinate your ad campaigns, we help you design them. In your instance, you do have the faculty to create a lot of your own advertising with the Public Information Department, so we kind of keep an eye on that and consult with them when they need us. But all of the placement and purchasing of advertising is done through us to keep that time burden off of your individual department heads. Last time I counted, there were over 24 media outlets whose job it was to sell you advertising, and they're great people with great products to offer. The average department head of the city of San Angelo doesn't have the time to sit down with each of those 24 people and hear their proposal and then discern which one of those things is going to be best to get the information out that they individually have and need to get out to the public, and that's what we do.
Okay.
Bob Bluthart, do you agree with what Anthony said about you?
I fully agree.
Tony Fox, do you agree? Man, I love these short responses.
I also fully agree.
Looks to me like a win-win. Any other further council discussion on this? Do we have any discussion from the public? If not, we've got a motion to approve this as it has been presented, which is a 5-year contract with Steve McLaughlin and his agency. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Put a 6-0 on that one, please, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we can go on now to which is the addendum. The addendum is discussion regarding the absence of zero ordinance regulations to address requests for secondary utility meters on lots in residential zoning districts, requested by Councilmember Marty Self, and I am very, very glad you brought this up. This discussion is long overdue, Chief.
Okay.
You're on.
Well, it was brought to our attention that currently in an RS1 and an RS2, we do not allow a secondary meter for any reason. And I personally think that secondary meters should be allowed. It's currently left up strictly to the, I guess, the planning director right now, and they made the decision not to allow them, and I'd like to discuss it because I'd like to look at the possibility. I guess it would take a zone change in RS2. I mean, a ordinance change, amendment, but in RS1 we just don't allow them. Period. Right now, right?
Right.
Right now, the ordinance prohibits second meters in RS2, and there may be one other zoning class. We may need AJ's advice on that. And then through an interpretation prepared by the planning manager, second meters are also prohibited in RS1. And so we probably need her advice on there are good reasons for that. The question is, do those reasons outweigh what we feel like should be allowed?
What are the reasons?
I just know that there was a man in Green Acres that bought a house, and when he went to have his electricity turned on, he had a meter on the house and a meter on the barn. And he was told at that time, you can't have that meter on the barn. You have to run electricity from the house with just one meter. And I thought that was absurd when I heard it. And then when I brought it to them, they said that's the rule. So it's not a good rule. We need to change it.
Why was the reason? Do you know why it was made that way to begin with?
The only place in the zoning ordinance where meters are specifically addressed is in the chapter on accessory apartments. And this ordinance was put into place in 2000, which was prior to my time with the city. So I can't give you a lot of history, unfortunately. I've tried to review the minute records from those meetings to see if they gave some explanation, and they weren't very helpful. But the chapter on accessory apartments does specifically state that the accessory units and the primary unit residence shall share utilities. No separate utility meters shall be allowed. And so that is where that ruling comes from. This is specific to two-family residential and multi-family residential. So they are limited to 1 meter per lot. Single-family residential is not specifically addressed, but again, the presumption was if in the most intensive residential districts it's specifically prohibited, then it's likely intended to also be prohibited in the least intensive. To get into rationale, the thing that we usually hear is you're essentially setting up the infrastructure for other types of activities to occur on the lot. So for example, if someone had a secondary meter on the lot and they wanted to plug in a recreational vehicle, for example, there's no requirement for them to come back to the city. So our last involvement in the process is at the step of metering. There doesn't seem to be a good standard practice, so to speak. Cities look at this in different ways. Some look at it as a strict prohibition. Other cities look at it as something that is independent of zoning altogether. You could look at it as a building code or an electrical code matter, for example. So I don't have a lot of background, but that's what I do have. And I'll be happy to try to help answer questions.
It sounds to me like what you're saying is it stopped oversized lots from having a little RV park and separate meters, or stopped garages being turned into apartments and having separate meters, and that was the reason for it at
That's
the time.
another good example. A household business might be another possible example. Again, these are all possibilities that we talk about, and so we'll be happy to take your direction and act accordingly.
Go ahead, Rodney.
Yeah.
Can't we go back and do this on a case-by-case situation? I mean, I've had instances where, somebody runs a woodworking shop out of their backyard or something like that. They want to write off the electricity out there because it is a business and keep it totally separate from their house. I mean, that's the example I would be using.
Which is not allowed. That's a prohibited business. The problem that you get to on a case-by-case basis is you're putting one person in the position of having to make a judgment call. And I can't speak for my colleagues, but I don't know that I would feel comfortable about that situation. Having some guidelines would be very helpful.
Well, it just appears to me that currently the way we have it, we're not allowing it because we're assuming that if we allow it, someone's going to have do something illegally.
Apartment.
And either an apartment or a business. But the person that just wants to have a shop and have a woodworking shop that just to do it as a hobby can't get a secondary meter. He has to run it. You take the Green Acres. You could run it 400 feet off from your house back to a secondary barn, and it gets expensive.
Charlotte?
Well, I do know that the tax code does allow you to do a per kilowatt per square foot for that area, that barn, that space. So, we don't totally prevent them from doing it legally because tax code does allow that.
The what?
If you have a barn or a portion of your property that is you're using for that and you want to use it for taxes and the electric bill, the PUC will give you a per kilowatt per square foot, and you can multiply it out and use that for your taxes, so you wouldn't necessarily have to have a second meter.
Yeah,
it's convenient to have a second meter, but you can do it by square foot.
Yeah, and I'm not thinking of the person that wants to do it for tax purposes. I'm looking for the person that if we don't get rain is going to be a mute issue. But if he has a swimming pool and he wants to run his swimming pool off a second meter, he can't run his swimming pool equipment off a second meter because we don't allow it.
Well,
go ahead, Don.
To me, I think that right, wrong, and different, that San Angelo has a lot of people that think we're way too prohibitive on what we do and how we do it. And I think this is just an example of it. That's like someone carrying a lighter around and saying, well, they can't carry a lighter, they might set an intentional fire. We kind of threw the baby out with the bathwater on this one. And I think that I see no reason we have inspectors to go and look at this stuff, and if they are having a garage apartment or whatever the scenario is, let's stop them at that time.
I agree. I think this needs to be changed. I think we need to have second meters. I look at the instance if an individual's got a workshop and he's got a compressor and an air conditioner that calls for big power, 220 just to keep his shop, may not be enough service from the house. Plus, by the time you get your drain on your... So I really think we need to redo this and allow for second meters. And do we need a motion? Yes, Johnny.
I have a question. If hypothetically speaking, if this was to be approved, and I'm looking out to folks like Fred Hernandez up there with AEP, what does that do to me? If I had a barn in the back and wanted another meter installed, I call up AEP, they come out and put a meter. Am I going to list that as a residential type meter, or does that open me up to open up a shop back there, illegally? And I'm just throwing that out. I'm just. What does it do to you, Fred, as a service provider of that type of equipment, or have you seen it, or are people taking advantage, or I don't know. I'm on the fence on this.
Mayor and council, thank you all for considering this matter because it's important to us. We get a lot of requests from folks wanting second meters for different reasons.
By the way, you are Fred Hernandez.
I am Fred Hernandez.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. And the procedure is if a customer asks us for a second meter there, they have to go through the permitting process. So the city comes and looks at it, much like what Councilor Bardman was talking about. The city will have an opportunity to review that thing and determine what it's going to be. So if it's something that's not zoned properly for that particular area, the city's going to have their say-so. But what's happening today is customers find out they can't have a second meter, so they'll run a service from their own meter to their shop or whatever, and they may set up something in that area that's not zoned properly, like a commercial woodworking shop that the city may never know. They may not ever get that permit to do it. If they come through us, the city has a mechanism to go out there and look it over. In our world, you were talking about our rates or how we would categorize that. In our world, there's only two rates that apply. There's residential and non-residential rates. So it would be considered a non-residential meter. So.
You know, I also see water wells.
Yeah, water
I see
wells.
water wells,
That's
putting
another
this
good
on a
example.
separate meter.
That's another good example. And these lots, like at Green Acres, that are a long way back there, these customers typically don't want to own that, because if that piece of wire fails on them, you know, they'll have to be responsible. They prefer us to do it. So that's another good example. There's a multitude of examples, but it comes up a lot, and it's, you know, it's probably not good for either the city or AEP to have to tell a customer, because we have an obligation to serve, but your franchise, the franchise we have with you all, supersedes that obligation, so we have to direct them back to you guys. So I'd like to.
In Fred, what you just said, there's residential and non-residential, and the second meter would be non-residential?
Yeah.
So it'd be
unless
a
it was
higher
an
rate.
apartment and it was appropriately zoned that way and somebody was living in there, that, you know, and if you all approve that, but that's primarily between us and that customer's retail electric provider. It really would have no bearing on you would not know as a city what the classification that we gave that meter necessarily.
Okay.
Unless they zoned it for an apartment and they asked us for a residential rate, and we would give them that rate or assign them that rate. But, so.
Okay.
Do we need a motion on this, or do we just need to give direction by consensus and discussion only?
Actually, can I just
Yes,
clarify
ma'am.
one thing, because you need to have all the facts? It is correct that at the time of metering, the city will be requested to sign off on that meter. However, once the meter is in place, we don't have the ability to go and randomly check apartments and accessory buildings and things of that nature. When we get complaints of someone living in an outbuilding or running a business out of an outbuilding, our code, and I wish James Flores was still here, but our code compliance staff handles those, and they have to be able to observe the activity from the public right-of-way. So I just want you to know that.
AJ, do you get a lot of those?
We do not get all of the complaints ourselves through planning. A lot of times they go directly to code compliance, so I can't answer to what they get. But of what we obtain in our office, that's one of the more common complaints, but we're not overwhelmed with calls, if that's what you mean. No.
We have a mechanism in place to take care of that problem. It's redundancy to do this. Would consensus of the council be that let's make this 2 meters available, or as many meters as they want?
Bring it back, yeah.
And then bring it back?
Yes.
Everybody?
Do we have to bring it back for?
I would actually recommend that what we do at this point is our primary concern is to make sure we protect those neighborhoods, that we don't have those situations where somebody creates an apartment in the back. But just give us a direction. We'll go back, establish a criteria, make sure that we're comfortable with that criteria, to make sure that we keep away that type of activity, and then bring that back to you.
And I might also add, AJ, this might be a good time to look at some of these codes and some of these restrictions. And if you find if you find others that are restrictive, that maybe don't make a lot of sense, maybe a good time to bring it back to us. And let's try and modernize some of these things so that it fits the situation.
I agree. And as soon as we're fully staffed, that's going to be one of the first things that we do.
Good deal. You have your direction then.
Fred, did you say that it's fairly common that most of these other cities do allow that, and they do take it on a case-by-case situation? Do you know?
Well, in the areas that I work, San Angelo is the only real, what you'd consider a metropolitan setups, and we wouldn't have it in smaller towns necessarily.
Okay.
Yeah.
Turner, do you have public comment on this, sir?
Yes, my name is Jim Turner, and I think this is just one of the areas that the city needs to address in modernizing and adjusting some of the codes that are actually getting in the way of people starting businesses. If you take a look at the biggest businesses in the world today, a lot of them started in garages right after World War II. When you look at Hewlett-Packard, Apple, Dell, the powerhouses in technology, the leading companies in the world today could not start in San Angelo today because of our restrictions on things like utility meters and zoning appropriate businesses out of neighborhoods where they could actually fit in and work well.
Yes.
and we are preventing our people from growing their own businesses, and we're relying on the kindness of strangers to come in and start business for us because we don't let our people do a lot of the businesses they could without interfering with the neighbor just because we can. Thank you.
Do you hear that, Roland Pena?
Amen.
Do I have any further public comment on this? Okay, I'm glad you brought this up, Marty. This is long overdue, and I appreciate it. All right, let's move on now to 17, which is, no, we can't talk about executive because we hadn't been in it yet. Let's go ahead and take care of the rest of these items. Number 18 is consideration of approving various board nominations by council and council members. Ford Concho, SMD 2, Martha King, full first term January 2017. Lori Barton, SMD 3, full first term January 2017. Ken Heineman, SMD 5, second full term January 2017. Joe Spagno, SMD 6, first full term January 2017. Y'all want to just take all these together? You want to take them A, B, C? Together. B, Planning Commission, Ryan Smith, SMD 1, full first term January 17. Darlene Jones, SMD 6, second full term January 2017. C, Zoning Board of Adjustments, Lewis Rourke, SMD 5, full first term January 2016. John Rowland, SMD 6, third full term January 2016. Anybody want to?
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Okay, we do have a motion to approve. I'm going to take Marty's second on that. I heard you the loudest. Do we have any further discussion from council? Do we have any public comment? Motion has been made that we approve these as they've presented, has been seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Put a 6-0 on that one. Number 19, consideration of confirming Civil Service Commission nominee Keith Hidalgo by city manager and approval of same by city council. Anyone want to approve this one?
Move to approve as presented.
Anybody want to second it? Got Johnny on a second. Any further council discussion? Any discussion from the public? Motion has been made that we accept Keith Hidalgo. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Put a 6-0 on that one. Do y'all want to go ahead and get the future agenda items out of the way before we go to executive?
Might as well.
Just get them out of the way. Have any future agenda items from anyone? Any council member? Fleming.
Can we have a discussion on the water usage by the SAISD for the next meeting? I've got the report on that.
Boy, you do like to get into
They
it.
did good. They did good.
Good.
They didn't do anything close to what they said they'd do.
Good.
So we're going to have a little talk and straighten everybody out. No.
Marty, you have anything, sir?
Not at this time.
Johnny? Charlotte?
Yes. Some sort of workshop or meeting with the city manager to discuss future planning and how we plan. Our city is growing by leaps and bounds, and especially out in my district in the commercial and the streets, how we plan and how we plan to pay for those street repairs or additions of, but would like to talk about it and how staff looks into their crystal ball, either flying by the seat of their pants or 3 years in advance or 5 years in advance, but also the funding for those items.
Don?
And that plays right into my inquiry as to where my request for capital outlay, stormwater, and half-cent sales tax comes in, because I think that we can combine maybe what Charlotte's talking about as far as funding goes on those, some of those streets and those sort of things.
Don, I took your request and split it 3 different ways, maybe 4 different ways. One has to do with the process of considering an election, and our city clerk has worked on that. I think she's already sent a brief, but
yes,
we talked about being prepared to educate us at a meeting, at some future meeting. Talked to Shane Kelton about developing an idea of what kind of equipment and staffing levels would be necessary for different service levels associated with streets. And they had already done some of that work previously, so I think they'll be prepared to talk about that kind of thing. And then the other part of it has to do with the funding side, eligibility of projects for certain types of funding. And we've got a combination of finance personnel and COSIDC personnel tackling that issue. I think we can be ready to go at about any time. Okay. And I would agree that the discussion that Ms. Farmer just talked about, and our city manager likes to do a retreat in February. I think all that could work very well together. Go ahead.
Would that, with the retreat, if we did that, would that also consider, would we be looking at part of the new budget, our budget workshop?
Basically what that does, February, we did a planning session also last year in February with the city council, but what that does, it also allows us to really get some good direction going into this fiscal year and the budget that we'll be working on. And that's really the perfect opportunity to do that, though. But we're looking at February as a time that we could do that.
One of the things that I was shooting for, I have no problem with a retreat whatsoever, but the way I was looking at it, if we can have an evening meeting on my concerns, then because we're involving every taxpayer in the city of San Angelo with my 3 items. And I just would like to have it in the evening where we can discuss it with our citizens. They can have input on it, and we can be a little more transparent.
You asked about this a couple of meetings ago, didn't you? Yes.
The last 2.
I agree with you. Charlotte?
Well, I would like to include, and I do believe it would take a workshop, but it's not just preparing budgets. I think it's very important for all division heads to be at the workshop and to understand why we have a budget. I mean, we don't have a bottomless pit. There is a bottom to our pockets, and the various managers have to understand why they have a budget, why they need to meet that budget, and if for unforeseen reasons, the process to come back and ask for more money and to give the reasons why. This overspending and overspending and overspending, we have to stop. We don't have bottomless pockets. Do you agree, Mr. Day?
Yes, ma'am. Bless you.
Rodney?
That falls right in with me, Charlotte. And you and I were both at this last meeting when we were talking about the meet and confer. What I want to, and now I'm really kind of getting my feet settled in, and I'm learning how all this process is working a little bit better. I want to know how this police budget is over so much every single year. And, we talked about this in the last one. I think we need to readjust how the budget is done for the policemen. And I know that we voted it down as a council twice this year, and now that I'm understanding kind of it doesn't matter whether we voted it down or not, they're still getting the money. So to me, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So I want to know how I would like to know how we're going to solve that. If we vote it down and we say, no, they're not going to have that budget, but then they still get that budget, I just don't understand it. Charlotte said it perfectly. We don't have a bottomless pit of where the money's coming from. So we need to make sure that we're either some other departments are getting too much money and they're kicking it in at the end, or something. Yeah, or we're taking money from them that they shouldn't be losing. I just want to understand that a little bit better. Okay? Thank you.
Johnny?
I just wanted to get more clarification on the idea of the joint meeting. Is there a date set? There's not. It's up in the air.
The meeting the date that we had tentatively was January 28th, but that's been canceled because scheduling issues with the school district. The other date we did look at was February 13th, but I haven't.
Either.
See, so I'm having trouble scheduling, getting all the groups together.
Now, February 13th, they're having Texas Republican Women or something's having a forum that night, and all of the
elected officials
will be there. Mm-hmm. So it'd be Floyd and you, and so you would miss that, and
we'll coordinate a different.
So we need a different one.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
One of the things, I know Don mentioned concern about being able to address his items in a public fashion, which would not necessarily be consistent with the retreat, depending on what the retreat worked. And Don also talked about an evening meeting for his items. When we have, during the budget process, open meetings to discuss, actually it's part of the capital improvement plan development process, we have public meetings we seek public comment on issues, and we'll talk about issues we're facing, projects that have been developed, and seek public comment on that. Those generally turn into very positive meetings where the public feels good about being heard. And if, one of the things we could consider be an evening meeting with limited scope to these kinds of issues, designed for some public comment and maybe some free time for elected officials, staff, and the public to walk around the room and talk about issues they have, but also some formal public comment that we would take down and consider at a retreat type setting.
Well, and I think that's exactly, I don't think we need a regular meeting per se on these three items, especially if you couple it with Charlotte's request, because we'd be here till 2 o'clock in the morning if we do that. So what my suggestion is let's go ahead with our regular meeting, and then in the evening have a workshop or a called meeting, whatever you want to phrase it as, and go from there.
Agree with you. I have one deal, and this just came to my attention last week, and I think it's something in light of what Target has gone through and what Neiman Marcus has gone through with all of the hacking and the losing of data that we really need to address. My son tried to turn on water to a rent house here a couple of weeks ago, and when he went in to ask for water, they said, "We must have your Social Security card." And he said, "Why?" Or asked, "Why?" And they said, "Because you've got to have it. It's ordinance. We've got to have it." So he went back home and got it and brought it back and gave it to them. They were filling out the application. He said as he sat at the desk that he was looking at the previous person that had been in asking for water. There's name, address, all of the pertinent information, Social Security number, all of this sitting right there, right next to him as he signed this thing up. And when he got through, he said, "I hope that you are not going to treat my material and my application with the same disrespectful way that you treated this lady." And the girl just kind of laughed and turned it over. I personally don't see that we need a Social Security number to have water service. I don't understand why we need tax numbers to turn on someone's water. If we need an identification, then let's do like the banks and go to the last 4 digits of the Social Security, and that would give us the identification. But I think in light of what's happened with Target and Neiman Marcus and these accounts being hacked, even if we are doing our best due diligence to protect these numbers, which I don't think we are opening ourselves up to some tremendous liability if someone gets in our system. And I just don't understand why we need a Social Security number to turn on someone's water. I can understand bank information, but I don't understand identification on the Social Security. So I want that brought forward. I want to discuss that, and I'd like to eliminate that. That's all I've got. Are we ready to go to executive? We are ready. Let me read this. If can I find it?
Page 3.
Executive, closed session. Executive session under the provision of Government Code Title 5. Open Government Ethics, Subtitle A. Open Government, Section 551. Open Meetings, Subchapter D. Exception to requirement that meetings be open under the following sections. Section 5510712. Consult with its attorney on a matter in which the duty of the attorney to the government body under the Texas disciplinary rules of professional conduct of the State Bar of Texas clearly conflicts with this chapter regarding quarterly invoices dated 12/9/2013 and 1/9/14 for services rendered pursuant to the interlocal agreement between the cities of Abilene, Midland, San Angelo, effective 4/9/2011, West Texas Water Partnership, subject to confidentiality under said interlocal agreement. Consult with its attorney regarding West Texas Water Partnership. Section 551072, to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, value of real property regarding West Texas Water Partnership. Section 551087, discuss an offer of financial or other incentive to a company or companies with whom the City of San Angelo is conducting economic development negotiations and which the City of San Angelo seeks to have locate, stay, or expand in San Angelo. Section 551074A1, to deliberate the evaluation and duties of the city manager. It is 11:35. I now take us into executive. Okay, it is 1:48, and I call the meeting back to order. There are two deals that we dealt with in our executive that I will need a vote on. The first one we dealt with is that we would pay the bills that we owe as 1/3 of the partnership between Abilene and Midland and San Angelo in our West Texas partnership. And that bill, what was that amount? Do you remember the amount, Alicia?
We don't get to keep them.
Yeah. What was that amount, Tina?
That amount is $31,868.06.
If someone will make,
I move approval.
Second.
okay, I do
Second.
have, I heard you that time, Doug.
Good.
And that's our, let's make it real clear, that's our portion of that.
That is our portion. That is the
1/3 of the total
1/3.
bill.
That's correct.
Abilene will pay the same and Midland will pay the same. That is our third of the West Texas partnership. This is for legal and engineering and all of the many things that's been done. Chief, did you have something to say?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
All right, we do have a motion. We do have a second. Did you? Any other, is there any other council discussion on this item? Any public discussion? I'll call for the motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The next item that we discussed in our executive was the evaluation of Daniel Valenzuela as our city manager. Daniel Valenzuela did, we were able to say that he either met or exceeded the expectations that we had for him as a city manager. This should have been done at his 1-year mark back in October, and we're just now getting to it. So I'm going to ask for a motion to approve. And since he does exceed the raise that we gave to all employees that exceeded or met expectation was $490 a year. Am I correct on that figure?
No, it was a year.
$490
That's
a year. The figure that we gave to our employees that met or exceeded was $490 per year. So Daniel met, he did meet or exceed our expectations, and he needs to receive the raises that were given. Also, since this was due in October, we are the ones that have drug our feet on this, not Daniel. I would like to make this retroactive back to the day that it should have been done after 1 year, and I'm looking for a motion for this.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, we do have a motion, we do have a second to take this back retroactive to the time it should have been, that we give him the $490 a year, which is what we approved for all of our employees that met or exceeded in the salary range. Any further council discussion? Public discussion, I'll call for the vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay.
No, I have something after that, if you're through with that.
I'm through.
Okay.
Yes, Marty?
Well, Winky wasn't here today, and since he wasn't, I feel compelled to move that we adjourn.
I will second that.
You can't, you're the mayor. Second.
I need to say it louder there. All in favor of adjournment say aye.
Aye.
We are now adjourned. It is 1:51 p.m. Let's go.